Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. Hey, all you minties! Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Disney's Gargoyles here in Manhattan, the hardcover and the trade paperback that just recently came out from Dynamite. So, stay tuned. Now, before we go any further, a big thank you to the folks at Dynamite for sending us copies of the hardcover and the trade paperback version of Gargoyles here in Manhattan. So this is considered Volume 1. As a matter of fact, let's look at the spines here. Do love the uniform look to the spines. It's nice, even though we have a trade paperback and a hardcover. Here in Manhattan, sorry. And we have Weissman and Cambadias right there as the artist. Dynamite logo, and then the Volume 1 at the bottom, and Disney up at the top. Just smaller font, of course, on that trade paperback. And then the back of the books. So you have the hardcover. It actually the exact same thing. They are defenders of the night. They are gargoyles. Praise for gargoyles, and then a little bit about what is collected in here. The ISBN, of course, being a little bit different because the hardcover is $24.99, while the trade paperback is $19.99. And just to kind of give you an idea, these are standard size. So they're not oversized trade paperbacks or oversized hardcovers. So they are the size of, let's do it this way, trade paperbacks. But one is a standard size hardcover. Of course, the trim size of the paper is the same as that of a trade. All right, we are actually going to be looking at the hardcover. That's what I flip through here and talk about just the little bit of brief history of Gargoyles and give you a glimpse as to what is in here. And then we'll do a comparison to see if there's any differences in between the trade and the hardcover. Okay, so we are going to be looking at the hardcover, but I did want to point out that the softcover, the trade, is done by David Nakayama, while Amanda Conner returns to her roots of Gargoyles, one of her first published work at Marvel Comics. And here's your end sheets right there, Gargoyles here in Manhattan. So this book collects the first 6 issues of this ongoing series from Dynamite. You have Greg Weissman writing the story, and you have George Cambadias drawing it. The colors here, not only by George, but also Giulia Giacomino and Giovanna Lepetra and Andrea Izzo. Josh Rodriguez, lettering by Jeff Eckelberry. And you have an introduction here from the man himself, Greg Weissman, who I got to interview a couple months ago talking about the Gargoyles Kickstarter. And that's exactly what this introduction is, giving you an idea of what Gargoyles was to him, who he was in the realm of Gargoyles, and how there were 2 seasons, and oh my gosh, season 2 had 65 episodes, while season 1 had 13. And then it was canceled, and then Disney bought ABC, and they ended up making 13 episodes, with only 1 episode that he still counts as canon because he's the one that wrote it, and that's the very first episode. So after that, Marvel ended up, well, I guess Marvel really did end up doing comics that he considers non-canon while the series was still going on. And then there was Slave Labor Graphics. Now, Slave Labor Graphics, that was back in 2006, is where he went to tell the story of how season 3 should have gone. So there was season 1, 2, and then the Chronicles of Goliath that he doesn't consider canon except for that first episode. So during the Slave Labor Graphic days is what he did. He wrote those stories to say, okay, this is the way that season 3 should have gone. He considers episode 1 of season 3 of the Chronicles of Goliath to be canon. So everything after that in the animated show is not canon, only his stories. And they also did some miniseries too. And they are going to publish those, by the way. Dynamite is going to be publishing those. And then I remember when Joe Books, who had done the Darkwing Ducks trade paperbacks, and they were coming out with Darkwing Duck comics, said that they were going to do new Gargoyles. I think Aaron Sparrow was attached to the project at one time. Regardless, that project got canceled. And then in 2022, it was announced that Dynamite was actually going to launch the Gargoyles ongoing series. And I was so excited. Because Gargoyles came out at that time when Disney Afternoon was just life, man. It was awesome. It was DuckTales, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, Gummy Bears, and then, of course, Darkwing Duck. And I wasn't into Goof Troop, or what was the other show? Bonkers, I think. But this was it. It was this and Batman the Animated Series, and I loved it. I even loved the Chronicles of Goliath. So it was really cool to see that there was going to be an adaptation of, I guess this would be considered season 4. So after years of being canceled, it is now back in comic book form. And who knows, maybe one day we'll go back up there to the world of Disney streaming, who owns the rights now to Gargoyles. So in this story, I will say, if you're a fan of Gargoyles, you're going to love it, because immediately you start seeing familiar faces here, like Goliath and Lexington and Angela and Eliza, and more characters start showing up. But if you hadn't watched the show, it's a little much. It's a lot of characters to be introduced to, but it's done in a really cool way. It's done in a way, like, every issue has a different narrator. Issue number 1 is Eliza's narration, talking about how she's friends with Goliath, maybe a little bit more. I mean, it's all laid in there. And then you get to meet the family, right? Like, Brooklyn comes in. And, by the way, if you've only seen season 1 of Gargoyles, this will spoil a lot of the things that happen in season 3. And even episode 1 of season 3. Now you have Brooklyn coming in here with his wife, Katana. She was the one that they met in feudal Japan. I love this right here. Don't ask. You have Lexington, and you have Nashville, who they call Nash, and that is Brooklyn and Katana's kid. And then you've got my boy up there, Hudson. You've got Goliath's own kid, Angela, who's dating Broadway. Bronx is in the book. He's a little bit later. And now there are some other characters that do appear. I don't want to spoil that. But I think it does a really good job of reintroducing you to the clan. These gargoyles that played such an important part of to Eliza's life. And even in this story, Eliza reintroduces herself, her role in the NYPD as a detective. So right now, it's really interesting because New York gangs are pretty much about to go to war with each other, because you have a lot of their leaders that have been locked up. And this is also during the time when the world knows about the Gargoyles, but they don't know what to make of them yet. So it's an interesting take on what happens after episode 1 of season 3. And eventually a lot of the things get resolved. And you are going to be seeing some familiar characters through here. You are going to be seeing Talon, for example. And you're going to see Maggie show up through here. And what happens to them and where they are in their lives. Now, they were antagonists. And perhaps they could be good again. I'll let you find out. And you also get to see clones through here. Like, you have Goliath's clone right here. Thelog. Thelog. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Who's making plans with Severus to kidnap Maggie and Talon's child. So, it's also a book about legacy and what happens to these characters. I do love the fact that in the first issue, you are reminded who these warriors by night are. And how they were betrayed by humans who they had sworn to protect. So the first issue, like I mentioned, is all narrated by Eliza. The second issue is narrated by Brooklyn. No, it's actually Angela. Brooklyn's the third issue. So then you get the perspective of the Gargoyles and what's happened to them. So in this particular issue, you get more about the clan and where they've been. And I do believe, I don't think it states, at least early on, that this does take place around 1997. So it's still set during that time. I'm sure there's going to be a time jump. And I don't want to go through much through the book because I want people to be surprised. I want them to see if they see Xanathos or other characters, like some of my favorite characters that haven't shown up at the very beginning. But I did want to go ahead and look at the extras because there are a ton of extras. So the book ends in a cliffhanger, and there is more. There's a second set of stories that Greg... I mean, when I interviewed Greg, he was talking about how much ideas he had. So there are more Gargoyles comics coming out. As a matter of fact, the ending, the cliffhanger, sets up some of the things that will happen later on. Now, in the back... Oh, and there's actually a prequel, The Dark Ages, that is coming out, too. In the back is where you're going to find the variant covers, and each cover credit is over here, like Amanda Conner, who, of course, did this particular cover. In thumbnail size, by the way. My gosh, there were a lot. There are a lot of Gargoyles covers. Oh, this is awesome. This is the issue, different issues and their process pages. So you have the script, and you have the artwork, and then when the art is colored. I like that about this book. I like when they add things like this. Here's an ad for Gargoyles Dark Ages. This one is drawn by Drew Moss. And then the facsimile right here of Gargoyles 1 from Marvel Comics. Well, now published, of course, by Dynamite. That's the Joe Mad cover. This is the collection of Darkwing Duck, which I've done an overview of, and I'm putting these out of order, so you may or may not have seen that book already. Now, as far as the build of this one is glued binding. And as I did mention earlier, this one has 160 pages. Now, there is absolutely, as far as page count, this one also has 160 pages. It's the exact same page count as this book. And the paper stock, something I wanted to talk about. So let's actually do a quick little comparison. We'll start with the cover right here. Because, I mean, you see the white end sheets and you get the title page immediately. The introduction is still there. We are the defenders of the night. We are Gargoyles. And then the cover here by David Nakayama. And honestly, the colors look the same. The paper stock feels the same. Like, I don't know. I mean, and the gutter loss is also the same. So it's there in the trade. And it's there in the hardcover. But there is really no difference at all in between the hardcover and the trade paperback. Again, just to rest assured. Same trim size to the paper. And feels like the same paper stock. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, either edition, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and of course the build of the hardcover, and if there were any differences between the two books. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button. Let me know if you are reading the Gargoyles series. If you're hoping once it's all said and done that this particular story will be collected in a big oversized format. And if you are enjoying the series, I want to know who is your favorite character and what character from the cartoon you would love to see return that hasn't already. But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.